creating. So as a framework in middle school, I realized that middle school doesn't really have, like, primary has a very clear CRA framework, and senior school will say we are all exam oriented. I used to feel, what does middle school need? And I realized middle school is so diverse that it needs more like a meta framework, which is that you pick the best from each. And humane maths, finally, I realize what I do is, it's like a blend of Steiner, Bloom, and a lot of other thought leaders. It's think, feel, move, connect. That the teacher needs to connect with the children. That's the heart of it. And when in designing the lessons on a day-to-day basis, keep think, feel, move in the class. Am I getting the child to think? Am I getting the child to feel positive? And math really needed that, that positive feeling for maths is so important. Otherwise, the fear of math comes in. By the time I think kids are fifth, that you can start seeing that some love math and some don't love math, and move. The third part I found was that kids in classrooms after classrooms are just sitting. So it's like think, feel, move. So if you see Benjamin Bloom, if you use his theory, he would say cognitive, affective, psychomotor. If you look at Steiner, he says head, heart, and hands. So that's what think, feel, move. But I brought in connect from, and I found a lot of support in this lady, Brené Brown, who talks a lot about connection. It's a positive energy that is flowing between two human beings. And if that connect is there, I discovered you can use any strategy under the sun. You can even use board and chalk, and it works for the kids. So that's humane maths is like a blend for it.
Thank you.
So that's what. And then I think it's a meta framework because it can be used anywhere. I find in education also, in any subject, you can keep it in mind, think, feel, move. So if, let's say, in sports, kids are moving. So I used to ask the sports teacher, so how are they thinking and feeling? What's your connection with them? And let's say in art, kids are feeling a lot and doing. So again, I would ask, how are you making them think, and how are you getting them to move with art? And again, what's your connection with the kids? So, then you can even go to the next step and think humane life, that how am I growing in my mind, in my emotions, in my body, and what's my connection with myself and life. So I found this a very good framework, thanks to my student, to turn it into like a life framework. Let me know when you want me to start. And
yes,
you can, yeah. And I may need help whenever I send you into rooms, discussion rooms. I'll need help from someone. You can send them jigsaw. Anybody goes anywhere. It doesn't need to be any particular group or subject, because it can be a round robin, the groups. And so today's topic is differentiation in the class, which for me is the final step, like the final point of a teacher for me is when a teacher is able to become a differentiation specialist in a classroom. And differentiated instruction came from a lady called Carol Tomlinson. So I'm going to be doing, like, my way of session is very, again, multi-sensory. So there will be a video, there will be discussion, there will be thoughts, and constantly there will be breaks where I will say, okay, now go and discuss how would you use this in the classroom. With every group, have a leader, so that when you come back, that leader can share with everybody maybe top 3 points we discussed, because we'll always have a time shortage. And most importantly, you may not need to take a lot of notes, because I'm using a PowerPoint and I have converted it into a PDF, and I'll give you the link. It's an open link, so you'll have all the web links, this bunch of resources in it, videos which you can use and reuse. I'll send it to you right after the workshop itself, and I'll send it here on Zoom, as well as I'll mail it to Sonal, so you You guys can just feel free, have a nice Saturday where you're having a discussion, bonding with your team. Think of it like that. So don't spend a lot of time jotting down notes. That would be my request, because you'll get the PDF of the PPT in the end. Okay? Any questions? No questions? This is going to be mandatorily interactive. So can you see my screen? Can you see the screen? It's the PowerPoint.
Yes, you're able to see.
Stop. Yeah. So differentiated instruction is how I'm calling it. First, I'll just show you what I'm covering. What is the meaning? What are the types of differentiation? It's a usual. What does it mean? Why do we need it? How do we implement it? What more can we do? And there is an audit metric here that if you as a teacher can switch in your classroom, if you are so flexible that you can switch your teaching, then you have got differentiation. So to start with, there is a quote from Dr. Joe Waller, who has worked a lot on math mindsets. I just like us to read, and then maybe any one or two things that you have picked up out of it, we can discuss if it triggers something in you. So she says the complex ways in which children understand mathematics are fascinating to me. Students ask questions, see ideas, draw representations, connect methods, justify and reason in all sorts of different ways. But recent years have seen all of these different nuanced complexities of student understanding reduced to single numbers and letters that are used to judge students' work. So what do you understand from what she's saying? What's your takeaway? For example, when I read this, I see there's a whole variety of ways in which kids learn. But finally, the judgment is so narrow. Either a number, 90%, 80%, 75%, or there is a letter. You are in grade A, grade B. That's what I see a visual when I read this. What do you see? So the thing is that I don't move ahead till I get at least 2 responses.
But this still looks so much like this reductionist theory, right? We've reduced the diversity and boxed it into just simple numbers.
Absolutely. Great answer. So we'll start with what is differentiated instruction. Put very simply, it's a story-based math class, which is real. So this is the class that I was observing when I was working in Vita Junior. So there was a teacher called Ramya and a kid called Gurkirat. And this is a real story. So Ramya asks, Gurkirat, do you ever go for trekking? So Vita Junior lessons are all narrative-based. There's a story in which the entire math is happening. And the story always has a title. A story has a theme, sorry. So this theme was trekking. So Ramya asked, do you go trekking? And Gurkirat said, I don't know what trekking is. And the teacher was completely like zonked for a second that the girl is saying, I've never seen what trekking is. I don't know what trekking is. And the entire lesson was based on trekking. All questions were based on trekking. So Ramya did ask her, shopping? Gurkirat said, of course. And Ramya switched the lesson to shopping on the spot. So my question to you is, what would have happened if Ramya had gone on with trekking as narrative?
Children may not connect.
Right, very true. The children won't connect. And
they'll miss the experience.
Sorry?
They'll miss the experience of real life learning.
They'll miss the complete, bang on. They'll miss completely the whole focus, which is real life learning. So differentiated instruction, the meaning comes from Carol Tomlinson. There are 4 aspects of it: content, process, product. These 3 I always knew, and now I know there's a 4th one, which is a learning environment. Now, in a lot of slides, you will see read more link here. When you get the PDF, this will be there. So if you want to read more of what Carol Tomlinson says, you have a link over here. So she says these are the 4 key aspects. So can you tell me which one did Ramya use here? Did she use differentiation of content, process, product, or learning environment? What did she change to suit the child?
Learning environment.
I think it is the process Ramya changed. Ramya changed the process of learning.
Okay.
I think it's the content.
It's the
Even I
content.
felt content.
Yeah. The content in the lesson is on trekking. She changed it to shopping. But her teaching is still the same. She's teaching the child one-on-one. So it's the content that she quickly changed. And this is an example of differentiation that she used what the child could learn better as her focus. So this is Carol Tomlinson, just to show this book. In case you don't have it in school, I would recommend buy it. So I'll show you a video now on differentiation of content. And the focus is going to be listen to the video, and then we will have some questions on, have you done this? If yes, how have you done it? What more can we do? And this will be a generic discussion. At the end of each section, there are 4 sections to this presentation. At the end of each section, we'll have a group discussion in the breakout rooms. Okay, so please tell me if you can. This is a silent video with only music behind, so you'll have to just read what's on the screen. Okay. Any examples? Differentiation of content. Any one example of either of this? You know, like any one example of how did I differentiate? Anything like, okay, this is how it helps. Any thought, anyone? What would you keep in mind when you are differentiating content? Like, when would you differentiate it? Think of your classroom, think of your kids. Just have your classroom and your kids in front of you. And think, when would I need to differentiate? You can even take an example. Let's say I have Sarah and Pancham, and then this and this and this, and then you can even bring example using your kids that what is a situation where you would have felt you needed to differentiate?
This happened when I was with the kindergarten and my first year of teaching, and we were exploring mazes with children. So in my diverse group of 14 children, I could see that they were sitting in 3 groups. So one were at the basic level, a very simple maze, whereas The second one was at a much complex one, and the third one was at a very, very complex one, which which looked like worms on the screen. So that was one place where I saw differentiation of content in very young one.
Yeah, very nice. So whenever I'm asking you, think of an example or something, just go back to your kids and connect anything that's happening with the kids here. So let's see the second one, differentiation of process. Okay, I'm thinking some of you were nodding very nicely. I'm thinking that you would probably have some examples, like some of the methods used can be tiered method, uniform, tactile, language. So can you give any example from your class when you change your teaching method because the one that you had thought of wasn't working? For example, I was teaching probability once and I had a fantastic activity and I was like top of the world thinking that, wow, what a great lesson plan. And it completely flopped in the class because the kids couldn't understand instructions. And then I had to, on the spot, drop it, pick up the textbook and start teaching normally. So can you give an example? Again, classroom examples are the best examples.
So in math class, we were learning about factorization, prime factorization methods. So we started with the normal method, but some of them were not able to get it. So we used tree method and then cake method. So some of them could get the cake method. Some of them were, they found it easy with the tree method. So initially they did it the whatever way they like, but finally I asked them to let the children come and explain on the board, whichever method they like the most. So they solved in both the ways. And finally, all of them could get both the methods.
Great. This is like a typical example of differentiation, where if the kids are not learning, basically, if kids are not learning with the way I'm teaching, I'm going to change the way I teach and not expect the kids to force fit into the method I'm using. Of course, everything depends on other situation also, depends on the time and anything. But by and large, in an ideal situation, if a child is not learning the way I'm teaching, then I'm going to change the way I teach.
I'd just like to add, if I may.
Yeah.
So we were doing a odd and even number. For an adult, which may seem very simple. This was with a group of second graders. And we realized that just teaching the concept which was there in the book, some of them were very quick to get it. But there was one set who understood the process only through a story. There were 2-3 who enjoyed the process and could make the connect through a song. And then there were a few who had to be taken out and shown things around in the school, and they actually had to see it with their eyes, which is odd, which is even, how do the groups look. So that was one place where there were so many different processes that we had to engage in.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone wants to give an example from some other subject? Maths, I know it's slightly hard, so it's great to get these examples, but anybody else wants to give an example?
Yes, I would like to.
Yeah, please.
So I used to teach the small kids phonics, basically English. So we use different methods to teach the kids because each kid has a way of understanding it. So we use songs where they sing the song with the sound. The next method is we used to give flashcards and show them to relate to the objects around them. And third is just teach them the sounds by making actions so that gets into their heart. So these are the three different processes we use for this.
Yeah, great. Differentiation process is great, and mostly good teachers are very efficient in it. The third one in this video, at least, is differentiation of product. Yeah. Differentiation of product. Can anyone give an example here? It happens in a very specific situations. When would you use? If you have used, you can give an example. Otherwise, just like when can you differentiate a product? And please give examples from any subject, because this is an overarching educational thinking differentiation. It's not related only to math. Yeah.
Ma'am, I would like to add on to this. We had a topic called hydroponics, and when we were discussing about the advantages of hydroponics, some of them preferred talking about it, some of them preferred writing down about it. We had a student who expressed it through drawings. So there was a different way of expressing what they've learned.
Fantastic. So there is differentiation of content. What am I going to teach? Process. How am I going to teach? Product. How are the kids going to express themselves? It's generally very, very beautiful example by Pavitra. A lot of time I have used it is in projects where a child can hand in a PPT or a chart or a booklet. Some children and any other way. So some children would come up with very creative ways to present a product. For example, I remember I gave a project on symmetry, one-line symmetry, and I said, give me any way show what symmetry is. So some kids drew designs, some kids brought a booklet, some sent me an email on an explanation. But there was this one child who brought a collection of objects, and he said, I'm going to show you what symmetry is. He kept a book, kept a pencil, he kept two erasers on both the side, and he made a constellation of erasers and sharpeners, and he said, here is your symmetry. Are you happy with it? I said, yeah. And then he dismantled it, returned everybody all their things. And he said, this is called a sustainable project because it's environmentally friendly. So when we differentiate product is when fantastically the creativity of the kids is visible. As she gave an example from classroom, it's very simple and lovely example where kids can express it in their own way. And finally, it's differentiation of environment. Environment is, how is your class? What does it feel like? How is your furniture? Is it the same every day? Is it in groups? Is it individual? How are the walls? Are they filled with kids' work, or are they absolutely untidy, or are they only walls and nothing on the kids' work? Here, I'm very curious to know from all the teachers, how do you create a learning environment which keeps changing? Which would be some days kids are sitting in groups, some days they're sitting in alone, and small kids like you teach, they might be moving around in the class. Can you give me 2-3 examples from any subject where, how do you organize the learning environment differently?
Okay. Hi, I'm Dashna. Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I have one Priya classroom experience. This is a very new venture for me. But for English, I was thinking maybe we can put in new words so that we can help build their vocabulary.
Yeah. That's a lovely way. It's a dynamic, moving kind of an environment. Any other way? Can you ensure that when kids come in the class, like a smile comes on their face? Or they feel
like setting up the classroom, with different backdrops based on the themes that we are going to take that particular week. So if it's going to be a jungle theme, I think when no child gets into the class, he or she will have that excitement that they're getting into a jungle, and they will experience a whole different thing altogether.
Yeah, that's the way. So this was just like the first part of the overall session. What is needed now is the breakout rooms. Maybe we can have 5 teachers in a room, approximately 4 to 5. And then the request is for all of you to discuss. We have done differentiation of content, process, product, learning environment. What have I understood? How can I use it? These are only the 2 questions, and anything else which you brainstorm with each other. And who's going to set up the breakout rooms?
Ritika, you'll be able to do that.
Yeah. So if you can take these breakout rooms and be as diverse as possible in the subjects that you use. Just whenever you're discussing, come back with lots and lots of different subject examples. And these are the 2 questions to discuss. And Kritika, please send them out for about, I think, 6 minutes should.
6
so
minutes.
that is a quick discussion and then come back. Okay, thank you.
Doesn't give me the option to create rooms, Akka.
If it's a problem, we can have an overall discussion.
Lakshmi, will you be able to help?
Yeah, even for me, it doesn't show it.
Yeah, doesn't give me the breakout room.
We need permission.
Sonal, can we then have an overall discussion instead of breakout rooms? Why you can maybe figure out, maybe next time we can have a breakout room. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I'm looking into the Zoom, browser, but there is no option there for breakout room.
Yes.
That's in Google Meet. I'm very comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's have an overall discussion. And for just maybe 2-3 minutes, differentiation of content, process, product, learning environment, 4 things you have done. So maybe I'll just throw one question to you. What's the use of it? Why should we do it? Before I'll take you into why Carol Tomlinson says this is needed. Yes, Sharon?
So basically, I think so differentiation is required because children come with different ways of learning. So each child, if we have a standard or set plan in mind, when we go to a classroom, it is very, very difficult to actually cater to each and every child because each one of them learn in a different way. So if we plan our lessons accordingly, like maybe have a hands-on or something, and maybe a few kids learn through reading, just by reading. Some of them learn through hands-on, and some of them learn through maybe just making things out of their hands. So in a classroom, I think so while we are planning, it should be done in such a way that the plan caters to each and every child. At the end, the learning should take place. All of them should have the learning experience.
Yeah, very well said. Can we have one more reply if somebody has a different thought process on it?
May I?
Please.
I was just thinking that also the differentiated practices would be required from the teaching learning process to become more student-centric than teacher-centric, because with change can we expect that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's going to be only from the teacher to the children. So student autonomy can be
Exactly. That's a
cultured.
beautiful word, student autonomy, because normally teaching is teacher-centric, or as I see in the corporate world, in the private education industry, it also becomes framework-centric. So somebody will say, my product is based on CRA method. Somebody else will say, I follow Bruner. Somebody else will say, I also Bloom. And as teachers, we know that there is no framework which captures all kinds of kids. So it makes learning student-centric and independent of teachers' set beliefs and frameworks also. So that's the advantage. But well said, Kritika. And
To add on, it is also a relaxed way of teaching, I guess, because we are
I can't hear you. Your voice is very low.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is also a relaxed way of learning, as well as teaching, because we are not forced to teach the child in a particular method.
Yeah.
So when he doesn't understand, we have the liberty or the freedom to switch over to the other. So it is a relaxed way of teaching as well as learning.
Yeah, that's a very nice comment you have given. What I would need is, can you explain a little bit? Because I'm very intrigued that you said relaxed way of teaching. How is it relaxed? It's very intriguing. This is my,
No, as you say, like, no, say teaching numbers or ABC for kindergarten, just go in a song way. Why to go in a song way? We can go in a story way. You can show in audio visual. There are various methods, and then the child picks up, right? So I am not forced to just make them to memorize. Even more clear, to memorize. I'm not going to make them to memorize. They learn by themselves. So it's a relaxed way.
Freedom to use a game or to use an outdoor activity, or you make them draw something or write something.
Yeah, exactly. And we also give them the time for them to learn. It's not that they have to learn within that first term or second term. They have to complete it within that year to write, say, for 1 to 50 or something.
Yeah.
I'm not forced in that way.
Yeah.
So I also feel much relaxed.
That's a great thing. I think that's my takeaway today. I never saw it in this way, that, it's very relaxing for the teachers also. So let's just see. Thanks for that, ma'am. Let's see the why that comes from Carol Tomlinson, and I found it beautiful. This picture, the picture source for everything is kind of given over here. She says it's basically just common sense decisions. It's common sense for teachers that if a child is not learning, let's say, you're teaching a lesson in social studies and you're reading out a historical passage, or you can take them into audiovisual room and show a clip from that particular time in history. So she says it's a common sensical decision which teachers have been making all their lives, that if a child doesn't understand in this way, you teach in some other way. So this I'm ignoring because you've kind of given some examples. And I really loved when she said it's common sense, differentiation. And what Carol thinks, there's a short video here where she herself talks about it. And what I'd like you to do is to listen to this and then yeah, can I call you back? Yeah. Hello, can you guys hear me? I thought that I left Zoom and I was trying to call one of you to see have I left Zoom, and that's why the call. And I called a wrong person. I was calling someone else. I'm so sorry because I couldn't see the banner on the top, and I'm more used to conducting sessions on Google Meet. So I was like, have I left Zoom? And then I went back and came back over here. I'm so sorry for this, Sonal.
That's okay. I think if you first switch on the video and then minimize Zoom, and then from the Zoom you play, it might work. Because if a lot of tabs open, it will not come up as, it will not show when you are trying to share the screen.
Yeah. I actually opened the tabs are all the videos only. I kept them open because I see many times that if I open them on the PPT, they don't come out very well. So I always kind of keep them separate. But it's okay.
You can also
the
send me the link and I can play.
No, I'll try. I have closed the tabs. They are on my PPT. I'll open it. I normally hide the panel on the top. So here it is. Are you able to hear it? Are you able to hear
Yes. Yes.
What is expected here? Here, Carol will be talking about differentiation. What I'm expecting from you is from this video, pick up any one thing. I'm not going to play the full 5 minutes. I'm going to play it for about 2.5 minutes. Just pick up the one thing that you feel that, you know, like this is something I knew I picked up in it. And in 2.5 minutes.
I think differentiation is not really particularly hard. What's hard is breaking the old habits we have. And most of us as teachers have seen one size fits all teaching since we were little kids. And we saw it in college and we were taught to teach that way. And we've been teaching that way since we got into the classroom. Differentiation actually really is just a lot of common sense and honestly not anything different than just really, really good teaching. So I don't think the practices of differentiation are nearly as hard as breaking old habits. I think it's important for teachers really to envision what they would like their work to be like. I think most of us can develop in our heads pictures of a classroom in which students are working on work that works for them. You get a tremendous payoff in terms of student investment and achievement, but also their willingness to do the work. If the system's working, they don't fight it so much. And I think most of us like that idea of a classroom that's humane and one that's a good fit for the students we teach. So I think starting off to envision what we'd like and trying to understand why we might want to change some things, and then starting small, taking just a step at a time. There's nothing worthwhile that humans do that they do quickly. And so having a sense of direction and taking it a step at a time, and really trying to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it is helpful. I think differentiation is really expert teaching. And I think differentiation, like anything that works in a classroom, has to be built on what we know of good teaching. And so for me, a real simplified way of saying the non-negotiables of differentiation, we have to develop an environment that invites kids to learn instead of pushing them away from learning. I think we have to continue to polish curriculum so that it's engaging, worth kids' time, so that it helps them really understand as opposed to just trying to rote memorize things. I think we need to, with the curriculum, teach up, assume that kids can do good things and differentiate to scaffold them there. I think we need to use formative assessment consistently to help us see where students are relative to the things we want them to learn.
So what more can we do? From this video, I would say, like, what is the one thing that you picked up from here? Anybody, please answer. Any one thing. Whenever I see this, I pick something different. But what is the one thing that you picked up? And you can have a look at the whole video when I send you the PDF. These are all free resources from YouTube. So can you share anything that was like, aha, this is what I got new?
Constantly updating the syllabus for ourselves.
Okay. Anyone else?
May I?
Yeah, please.
So we were learning about LCF and HCM. I mean LCM and HCF. So like they got the concept, but children should also know where it is practically applied. Because from the textbooks they are able to solve the problems and all, that's okay. But why they are learning it, I thought they need to understand, and where they can apply it in our where around ourselves, where do we see that application? So we just showed them a video, like a real life problems, like a window. All of you go to your window and count the bars you have, the rods that are placed. So that is calculated using LCM and HCF. So they tried with that, and they were saying, okay, this is why I knew these many squares are there and these many horizontal lines and vertical lines are there in the window. So the sense of direction, where this learning is going to help them in what way? Like it is not only that they're getting the concept, but how they can apply it. Because most of the things, if you see, some basics, of course, addition, subtraction and all, they'll be using it. But some concepts like these, where factorization and all, they should also know the real life examples of where people practically apply these principles and get the answers and how to work with them. So that's when I picked up.
I found it very interesting when she said the whole objective is to pull kids to learning instead of pushing learning to them. What is it that kids find most boring in your experience, in your grades? Which subject are they finding it's most difficult to get the kids? Question one. Question two, what is the one thing you do to get kids to pull towards that subject? For example, I found geography very boring when I was in school because the teacher used to teach only, that time they were only teaching using board and chalk. But when I was teaching in IGCSE school, IB IGCSE, and we had this evening prep where we had to take care of all the subjects for the kids. So what did we do? We used to look at their textbooks, understand, and then teach them. And that's when geography literally blew my mind because of the way it was presented in those IGCSE textbooks. So I was pulled to learn more. Then I watched some videos and I found information was on YouTube. I understood what plate tectonics actually means when I saw it moving on the video. So like that, can you give me any one example of kids being bored with a subject? And what is the one thing you did that pulled them towards it?
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
So basically, for me, I'll take my own example. So basically for me, when I was in school, mathematics was one subject I did not, I'm not too fond of.
Yeah.
And the time came when I had to teach my son mathematics. So that is the time I actually looked through, because it was as me like, I wanted him to understand math in a better way. So that is the time I went and looked into various books and then joined a course and all that, and found out that maths also can be interesting. So all thanks to my son, now mathematics is one of my favorite things to think. Yeah, but I learned a lot in the process also. So currently math is one of the things I love, but hopefully my teachers at that time had taught me the way I had taught my son. I think so it would have been great.
Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing that. Can we have one more example from some other subject? I know math is what evokes most emotions, but there are other areas, other subjects I'm sure you must have noticed where, or you can take any part of a subject and say, my kids or I never found my being pulled to learn this or to learn, and what did you do to get them pulled towards it?
So may I?
Please.
We were doing Rivers of India for class UKG. So I was assisting one of my teachers. And so the way she beautifully presented it, we made a India map, and then all the rivers of India, how we started was we took the whole project for a week. We kept it, and first we covered the mountain tops from the Himalayas. So the very fact we started itself was exciting. They've started to fold the papers as the mountains, and they began from which it starts in Tibet. So which country, and then they came into India. So it became a story, and they stuck the mountains and they put the Himalayan peaks with the cottons. So it went on like that, and every state they started marking. So they had to give a fun fact about it. And it was so much of fun. So we learned so many juices, the number of juices that India prepares for each state. So the whole class, in fact, all the 22 children just enjoyed the whole process, and they were able to name all the rivers, the states, and they marked everything in the map. So the whole India map was done, as well as the states and the rivers that flew through. There was so much of story behind the whole lesson plan.
Amazing.
So it was a beautiful experience as a teacher too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Sonal, would you like to add something here? I think you please do participate whenever.
Actually, the entire thing, differentiation in instructions, it's somewhere, when it doesn't happen, that's because we have set certain kind of target in our mind about what the outcome should be, or the instruction for each age group. Somewhere those compartments are made, and where it starts from top. And as Yagamai was saying, we remove that completely.
Exactly.
You are relaxed. There's no something towards which you are going. And then you are involved in the process of it.
Yeah.
Than the outcome of it. So I think it's what is preparing the schools from the boards, educational boards, to management, to parents. It's this fixed idea that the child needs to learn this thing at this age. If it is removed, then I think a differentiation in instruction would automatically come, because we are engaging with each child. They're there in our awareness as to what they need and what is it that makes them feel engaged and excited and curious and all that. And then everything, it would be fun for everyone. The entire
Totally. Yeah, I also love when she said relaxation. Just stay relaxed. For me also, I think mindfulness helped me a lot to stay attentive, stay mindful, not be fixated that I made this great activity and it's going to go amazing and I'm looking forward, but to be very alert as to what's happening in the session. And then, so I'll take you to the next section now, which is where we are going to go a little bit into implementation. You might find this a bit theoretical. This is where I brought my own analysis into it. So I'll run you through it, and then they will, if there are questions, then we can stop for that. Is this visible?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So differentiation in one sentence, or like even what Carol says, commonsensical, I would say it's just the art of switching. That's it. In a single word, I would say a great teacher is a teacher who can switch quickly. So Ramya had that great, or I would rather say a great teaching moment is when you have switched. So Ramya's great teaching moment was when she switched trekking to shopping. Now, this is what my analysis is: thinking, feeling, moving analysis, the humane education analysis. Kids are always on a spectrum, and that spectrum also changes by day to day. So if you are, let's say I found a teacher in the field teaching kids throwing a ball in the basket, I found a child was feeling very okay. Then the moment the teacher asked the kids to go to certain rope swings where they had to move from one to the other quickly like a monkey, and I found the same child looking at it fearfully. So kids are on a spectrum, and the spectrum can be of thinking, feeling, moving. Some kids love to move, some sit, some are very safe, some are fearful, some are very high thinkers, low thinkers. It's not like a child is high thinker. A child can go through this low to high thinking in the span of the day. So connect with the children, which is an ongoing process, to know where is the child on the spectrum. So let's say in English, we've always seen if the teachers say grammar, the feeling goes towards, oh God, why do we have to do it? In sitting, some of them become very bored. The moment the teacher does grammar with a game, feeling improves, kids want to get up and move around. And when all of these three are functioning at a very high level, that's when learning happens in the deepest possible way. So connecting with the children so that the kids are on a, you can see where the kids are on a particular spectrum. Any questions here? I was going to ask you this particular question, but any question on this, or how do you sense where a child is on a spectrum? How do you sense, is my child feeling safe or the child is feeling scared? They want to move, they want to sit. They are thinking, the child is able to think highly or the child is thinking very low. How do you know? I mean, there are days when we are relaxed, as ma'am said, and we can sense it. There are days we are not very relaxed, and that's okay. But what do you do? What are your individual ways?
Hi, can I add to that?
Please.
For example, if if they've attached negative emotions towards assignments, homeworks and all, maybe we can sense a pattern. So from there, we can understand that either they're afraid of homeworks, assignments, projects and all that, or they have, some issues with learning stuff and all that.
Yeah. That's great. Anyone else?
Hi, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my own experience with my daughter. When I ask her to read a storybook or something, anything related to reading, she loves to do it. Okay. As soon as when I ask her to write, she says, I want to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm feeling sleepy. My legs are paining. So that thing, in that moment, I just want to switch it.
Exactly. That's great. I think we can go back to what, how do you pronounce your name? Yagammai?
Elizabeth. Right? Elizabeth, ma'am.
Elizabeth. No. Your answer was really right. But I think as Pam said, what Elizabeth is also saying is, if you're relaxed, you know immediately that this is the situation I need to switch, because the child has moved from the spectrum of easy to hard, or feeling excited to feeling bored or something. That's great. Anyone else wants to add to it?
May I?
Yeah, please.
If the child is getting excited by what we present, then it shows that they are actually on the other end of the spectrum. Sometimes the child gets withdrawn or wouldn't want to participate. So at that time we know that it is the time to switch or to try alternate methods of teaching, which would pull the child towards what we are, what we intend to teach.
Yeah. So kind of relaxed attention or a relaxed awareness in the class, which will give you instantly a kind of feedback from the children on whether they want to learn or not. Anyone else want to add something?
Yeah.
I have a question. So in a class of 20 or 25 children, when we are dealing with a topic, how do I have assessed now? I know that there are different levels in my class with respect to feeling, with respect to movement, and with respect to thinking. How do I make the switch at that time when there are there's an instruction going and there is a certain way forward that the class has to take? What would you suggest in a classroom setup? How do we keep switching when it's a whole group engagement, or even if it's a small group engagement?
Would anyone else like to take a shot at it before I say something? Or even Sonal, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I was going to raise another question. So maybe this can answer.
Okay. So Kritika, what happens is, my personal experiences with my own classes and my training times, it's not possible always. But if you have observed that is the situational analysis. Can I pause now? Can I stop now? Can I do something, or should I go on? Let's say I need to go on, then you go on, pull those kids out later and talk to them. But one of the best ways I found of switching is immediately change the classroom setting to peer learning. Let's say you've taught something, half the kids have understood, you're seeing half of them are going this way, immediately switch to peer learning, get them into buddies. And since your school is open to progressive strategies, I would say get them moving in the class. Ask them, okay, buddy up, whoever hasn't understood, buddy up with someone who has understood, and stand, walk and talk to each other. So give them like 2 to 3 minutes break where they talk to each other. It's called think, pair, share, if in case you've heard of it. And that is a great way. Going forward, I think that's the next section. I'll give you all kind of a video where they're actually talking about multiple strategies which can be used in the class for differentiation. But in this sudden situation where you feel some kids are going forward, some are getting dragged back, think, pair, share is one of the best ways, which is simply—
What is it? Sorry, think, pace and share, is it? Pair. Sorry. Okay, think, pair and share.
Pair them up.
Thank you.
Like buddy, every kid has a buddy and they talk to each other. So let's say you have just discussed something. Can you give me an example where something happened and you felt that you need to switch and any subject or anything?
Maybe in a writing segment where children are supposed to write something from their understanding, a story writing segment.
And some are writing, some are not.
Some are very excited about it. They're asking spellings, whereas some are like stuck in the first line itself and stuck with the thought of how to go about it.
Yeah.
Maybe a
That's
situation
when you pair them up. One child who understands, one child who doesn't understand. And the one who doesn't understand starts discussing with the one who understands. So instead of one teacher dealing with 20 kids, it's one teacher dealing with 10 pairs. And the children are talking to each other. So you will find some children are able to discuss with each other, what's the story and how do I do it? That's one way of differentiation. The other way is you get the kids who are doing well, who are writing the story well to continue. The ones who are not able to write the story, you give them triggers. A trigger which is used very well in English story writing is, and then what happened? So I went to the market and then what happened? And then what happened? And I've bought pastry for myself. And then what happened? And then what happened? If you keep going that, it gives them kind of triggers to write a story. That's the other way to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to add something. First thing is about this where I advise a lot of teachers to try this strategy of mind mapping, where all children are, the ideation improves because it's like a collective kind of thinking process that happens. The other thing was about keeping your mind open with regard to this spectrum which is there. So what happens is that very often at some point we start creating some kind of conclusions about children. We say if a child is not participating, we say, the child is shy, or he has fear, or whatever it is, or he is not prepared. Now, when we make conclusions, that may not be the reality of the child. But if you are aware that a child is feeling fearful for this activity, or child is hesitating or whatever, then in that awareness itself, the connection and the bond is formed, because you have in your mind not made any labeling or conclusion. So a child may not be the same every day and for every activity and for whatever learning framework has been provided. And so in that awareness, it sort of dissolves, whatever inhibitions are there, and you are open to seeing the child. Maybe in the next activity, the child is more participative. Maybe something has happened at home, or whatever it is. So there could be various reasons for a child not opening up in that situation.
I'm really thankful to you that you mentioned it, because I think even when I was talking about the spectrum, I kind of emphasize that the spectrum it changes in the same day. A same day, we might see a child move from the lightest to the darkest end. So a kind of staying aware, which is what connection, continuing the connection with the kid, which generally comes when you have that, like ma'am said, be very relaxed and aware, like not panicking. Why is he not doing it today? Why is he not operating in this class? Maybe like there was a kid who wouldn't do anything in my class once, and I got the other kids to continue working. And I went to him and I said, what's wrong with you? Is the lesson very boring? Am I very boring? What is it with you? And he said, he was crying, grade 6 kid. And he said, my dog died yesterday. It had nothing to do with lessons or anything. I said, so how old was your dog? He said, as old as I am. And I can't even imagine the shock he must be going through. So I said, why did you come to school then? He said, my parents said, if you go to school, you will be distracted. So I asked, okay, what do you want to do right now? So for him, this much connection was enough. He said, just give me 2 minutes, I'll be okay. And he went, washed his face, and he continued the work. So keeping, in my initial years, even I used to get immediate reactive. Okay, it was like, first thought was, my lesson is not exciting enough, or maybe I'm not doing something right. But the child's whole world had collapsed. So for him, learning at that moment was not a priority. So kids move from this spectrum. In the same 40-minute lesson, you might see kids moving from spectrum from one end to the other. And staying aware helps to not get into. So, but thank you, Sonal, for bringing this, that not label the kids, because the same kid might be excited. In the next 10 minutes, you can see the kid feeling excited.
Could I say something, if that's okay?
Please.
Yeah, just when Sonal was saying about making conclusions and what you said about the spectrum, I was just thinking about how, so for the classroom to be a space where differentiation happens, there is also the fact that a student moves out of the classroom and into a society of parents, teachers, and themselves, which is extremely sort of ableist and kind of measuring things up against each other. So for example, even if you do create a classroom where you can tell students that your project could be a song or an essay or a poem or a chart or a presentation, we are sort of conditioned to privilege presentation and words over something else, right? And so I was thinking about how for that to exist with so they are judging each other, or we are also judging them, in the sense that if a student presents a song, there is a sense that, oh, maybe he's not able to write well yet, and therefore music. But perhaps that movement is not necessarily linear, or from good to bad, or from light to dark. And that necessarily, the conclusion you draw is not that the child is afraid and therefore they will become unafraid someday. That sort of, I'm just wondering about whether differentiation is also in the sense that one doesn't necessarily ever have to move in that spectrum also.
Absolutely. As a possibility. You don't have to move. So how it works out is, one is that whenever you have a work or a task where you are bringing in conscious differentiation of product, you always have a rubric. And that rubric doesn't say music gets more marks or grades and writing gets less. The rubric is probably going to be, let's say you are doing a story writing. So the rubric would be story presentation, which can be in English, a lot of teachers do presentation of story, can be using pictures, can be using role play, can be using a monologue, can be using, let's say, build a podcast where you have read it very dramatically. So the rubric will not talk about all these things. It talks about only creativity of presentation. And that's one way of evening it out. The other thing you said about parents, what I always feel is that one big part of teachers is parent education. And to listen to parents and their anxieties empathically, connection comes there also. And then to share the rationale behind the activity or the project or the way of you have taught is done. So parents are by and large, and those of you who are parents with kids in school would know, they're just by and large worried, is my kid getting the best possible? And their worry is also, am I doing what is right for my children? So I found that if you're able to give the rationale for your activity to parents, it works. For example, my mainstay in my classes was collaborative learning. So I taught as much as the kids taught each other. Now, if a parent is asking, and this actually happened, I'm paying the teacher. Why is the teacher getting the kids to teach each other? Now, at that time, if I get defensive and reactive, it's hard. But I have seen, and then when I went around India to conduct trainings, I shared this with the teachers, they tried. If you at that time tell the parents that, I'm using one of the top strategies in the world called collaborative learning, to give them information, kind of helps. Then the parent asked me, but how would you know how individual kids have learned? And then I realized, yeah, you have a point here. And then I changed my teaching and I said, after every group work, you will also work individually. So let's say it's going to be 20 minutes you're working in a group, and then final 5 minutes you're going back to your seats and work alone. And then the parent was satisfied. So that's, does that answer your questions, or do you still have more doubts, Prema?
No, it was more of a little comment, but yeah, what you said makes sense. I was also talking about the necessity to challenge, so what we would typically call quote unquote slow learners and faster learners. I think that a way to strike this kind of differentiation is also to challenge fast learners out of that paradigm of what we consider fast learning, which is
absolutely. It's to challenge our labeling the kids as good learner, bad learner, fast learner, slow learner. This is creative, this is non-creative. So the more the classes get differentiated, the more the labels start dissolving, because suddenly you will see a child was great that day, but in the moment I brought this in my class, the child is struggling, or the reverse. So, but that's a beautiful observation you made, that we shouldn't have labels even when we are differentiating. That if a child is able to do poetry, then and can express a poem through, let's say, a moving elucidation, but a child is not able to write properly about it, one shouldn't have these criteria. Okay. Anyone else, or can I move on?
May I, ma'am?
Yeah. Please go on.
Yeah, ma'am. Sometimes you are using the teaching materials in any other aids are using and teaching, no? And the time they are avoiding the high contact. Why they are avoiding? Avoiding high contact.
For example?
Eye contact.
Eye contact. They are avoiding eye contact with the teacher or with each other?
Teacher.
With the teacher. There could be several reasons. Like I was always told, oh, you are so nervous as a person because you avoid eye contact. I avoid eye contact actually because I'm hard of hearing in my left ear. So my entire concentration is on listening. So my eyes go a little this way, or I'm lip reading people. So there could be so many reasons. The reason could also be the child is shy. The reason could be, so I would do is not go too much into the why, but to try multiple things so it just happens. So if a child observe for a while, is a child avoiding eye contact with everyone in the class, or is it only with the teacher? If it's only with the teacher, then maybe try and talk a little. Don't say directly that, oh, you must look me in the eye. Talk without looking in the eye, getting that connection with the child so that it automatically happens, the eye contact at some point. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Yeah. It's like not getting into a blame game. A lot of times teachers have this habit, no, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not good. Not being that, not labeling the child, something is wrong, but to increase the connection, increase the bonding, maybe observe for a few days, just observe how is the child moving around with others, because it could be just that day the child is avoiding eye contact. It may not be always. Anyone else wants to add something here? So the second last section is to just show you a video where there are multiple strategies, and the focus for you is to pick any 3 strategies from this which you feel, okay, these are relevant to my classroom. Is that okay? And then we are in the final section, which for me is always, what is the goal that you're setting for your classroom for the next week from this workshop? That's going to be the final thing. Sonal, this was supposed to end at 1, but we started 10 minutes late. If it goes a little bit further, that's okay?
Yeah, that's it.
Little bit. It won't be. I'm very particular about time ending thing. You know. So I'll show you the video and then just think of what's in it for me. Now, like, what are the things that I have learned? Slightly long video and I'm going to just run it.
Number 1 is create learning stations. Provide different types of content by setting up learning stations. For example, students can rotate between stations that involve watching a video, creating artwork, and completing puzzles. Number 2 is use task cards. Like Learning Station, task cards allow you to give students a range of content. Answering task cards can also be a small group activity, adding variety to classes that normally focus on solo or large group learning. Number 3, interview students. Asking questions about learning and studying styles can help you pinpoint the kinds of content that will meet your class's needs. Track your results to identify themes and students with uncommon preferences, helping you determine which methods of instruction suit their abilities. Number 4, target different senses within lessons. A lesson should resonate with students if it targets visual, tactile, auditory, and kinesthetic senses instead of only one. Not only will these tactics help more students grasp the core concept of lessons, but make class more engaging. Number 5, share your own strengths and weaknesses. To familiarize students with the idea of differentiated learning, you may find it beneficial to explain that not everyone builds skills and processes information the same way. Number 6, use the think, pair, share strategy. The think, pair, share strategy.
Just pausing here, this is what I shared with you, Deepika. Think, pair, share. This is what they are describing now.
Pair share strategy. The think, pair, share strategy exposes students to 3 lesson processing experiences within one activity. As the strategy's name implies, start by asking students to individually think about a given topic or answer a specific question. Next, pair students together to discuss their results and findings. Finally, have each pair share their ideas with the rest of the class and open the floor for further discussion. Number 7, make time for journaling. A journal can be a tool for students to reflect on the lessons you've taught and activities you've run, helping them process new information. Number 8, run literature circles. Organizing students into literature circles not only encourages students to shape and inform each other's understanding of readings, but helps auditory and participatory learners retain more information. Number 9, group students with similar learning styles. Heterogeneous grouping is the common practice, but grouping students based on similar learning style can encourage collaboration through common work and thinking practices. This tactic allows like-minded students to support each other's learning while giving you time to spend with each group. Number 10, assign open-ended projects. Give your students a list of projects to find one that lets them effectively demonstrate their knowledge. Include a clear rubric for each type of project, which clearly defines expectations. Number 11, teach up. Teaching at a level that's too easily accessible to each student can harm your differentiated instruction efforts. Teaching up, however, allows you to focus your differentiated teaching strategy and bring each student up to high-end curriculum and expectations. Number 12, use math edtech that adjusts itself to each student. Some edtech tools, such as certain educational math video games, can deliver differentiated content while providing unique ways to process it. For example, Prodigy Game adjusts questions to tackle student trouble spots and offers math problems that use words, charts, and pictures, as well as numbers. Number 13, relate math to personal interests and everyday examples. A 2015 study published by the Canadian Centre of Science and Education used contextual learning strategies to teach integers and increase test scores by more than 44%. Number 14, play a math-focused version of tic-tac-toe. Prepare by dividing a sheet into squares, 3 vertical by 3 horizontal. Then, fill the boxes with questions that test different abilities. You can hand out sheets to students for solo practice or divide them into pairs and encourage friendly competition. The first one to link 3 X's or O's by correctly completing questions wins. Number 15, analyze your differentiated instruction strategy on a regular basis. Carol Ann Tomlinson, one of the most reputable topic thought leaders, recommends analyzing your strategy. Frequently reflect on the match between your classroom and the philosophy of teaching and learning you want to practice. Look for matches and mismatches. Use both to guide you.
Quite interesting. I took this video, although it talked a lot of math, but I found that the strategies are transferable with this, and I found this was one of the best ones to show. So maybe not 3, but 2, 1. Can you pick any one thing? That I found the tic-tac-toe very interesting over here, which can be used for so many different subjects. Can you give any one thing that you kind of picked up from this, which you felt was very interesting? Something new that you picked up. Anyone? Anyone can answer.
Share your strength and weakness.
Sorry?
Share your strength and weakness.
Yeah, share your own strengths and weaknesses. Anyone else? There's nothing that needs more connection with the kids than sharing about yourself.
Yeah, I just like to add that I was kind of thinking that most of it, or if I should say all of it, we've been doing in the school regularly. So I think for me personally, what I would like to do more in the coming year would be to reflect and analyze on all the strategies that I take to the class, not only differentiated strategies, because I feel reflection is a very important part for not only children but for adults, and only when we are reflective practitioners ourselves can we take that in the form of journaling or any other way to the classroom. So that's one thing that probably want to do more.
That's a beautiful thing to say, Kritika. They say the most powerful teacher on this planet is a reflective teacher. So, and somebody taught this to us. Every evening, just ask, what was wow about my day? What was muddy about my day? Just these 2 questions. Like even when you're walking from the school to the bus stop or home or sitting in the bus, it just doesn't take much time. 5-10 minutes of reflection every day is really amazing. And anything else? Anyone else picked up anything new from this video? If you're practicing everything, you feel there's nothing new, that's okay. You can say that. But did you pick up anything which you can add to your repository?
Ma'am, I found tic-tac-toe very interesting. I feel that we could use in different subjects, not just maths. And also the self-evaluation of our strategies is also very important. Because if a particular strategy doesn't work for a particular class, then it is very necessary that we shift the strategy rather than just practicing the same strategy. And task cards was also very interesting, because having a task card zone that whenever they want, they can just pick up a card and work on it is also very interesting.
Okay. Others, any one idea that you felt, yeah, this was great and this is something new for me? It can be an activity or it can be a quote from Carol, anything?
Yeah, maybe tic-tac-toe was interesting. Of course, I would like to add on the last one, analyzing your own strategies. After it is done or during the process, whichever is working well, maybe it is not in the same subject. The same strategy may be applied to science, social, English also. And when the teachers have a discussion, actually, we will know like how does it work best, then what are the ways that we could implement the same strategy to another subject at a different level also. So I think the analyzing one is the thing that we should really work upon regularly, as you mentioned in that video.
Yeah.
And grouping students also, we have seen that, of course, when we give them a project or something and we divide them into groups and they work with that, that also works best. But still, after that, sharing also should happen. Otherwise, one group will be performing at a very good level all the time, and we have to focus on the group that is yet to give their best performance. No, so we keep shifting the groups also, the children inside the groups, and suppose one is doing the sharing process, the other one is doing the thinking process, and then the other one is doing the implementing process. So they twist their roles also in that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Anyone else wants to add? Someone who hasn't spoken so far at all? The silent ones in the session, would you like to say something here? But during goal setting time, everybody speaks one after the other. So It's like, if you're away from the laptop, this is the time to come back. Okay, so the final one, just a sec, is always the goal setting. Goal setting is, what is the one thing that you've picked up? It's like you've given up 1.5 hours of your time to come and attend this session. What is the one thing that you've picked up from the session? It could be something that your colleague said, something that you observed in a video or a PPT, or something I said, or something Sonal said. That is going to change. Think about this. This is generally the last thing where each and every one of you will be speaking up. Like for me, what ma'am said, relax. That's the main thing for that's differentiation. After that, I just want to show you the several resources here and my email in case you have any feedback or further questions. So, and the link I'll just put in the chat, but right now I'd like each and every one of you, one after the one by one, to say and be very brief so that we can be crisp, and it should be very specific. Okay, next time I'm going in my class, this is the change I'm making. So what's the one thing that you have picked up from this session? And the reason I always do this is that there was a study that was done that 95% of whatever is done in a workshop is forgotten in the next like 1 hour. In few days, most of it goes. Maybe one-off thing will remain. So if you set a very clear goal, this is what I have picked up, I'm taking in my class, and you actually do it and reflect over it. Did it work or not? That's the only thing that's going to stay with you forever. So please share what is the one thing that you have picked up, and in the chat I'll put the link to the PPT in the meantime. Please, anyone can start.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So the overall, there was a strong point throughout all the parts of subjects that you were sharing. So teaching methodology, maybe it should, what I gathered was it should be as diverse, and it should, it should be inclusive of the caliber of each kid, each student, so that, and it should be diverse because each kid might engage to a different methodology. So that's very important, and that should be kept in mind. That's what I wanted to add.
Okay, great. So what you picked up is diversity. Anyone else? Others?
May I?
Yeah.
So when we prepare for a topic and when we are to deliver, prepare for the different ways to which the topic can be approached, keeping the children in mind every single time. So if this becomes a habit for us, it would be easy for the children also. At the same time, we will also know as to how to switch between strategies while teaching.
Okay, great. During preparation, only think of diversity and how many different ways I can do it. Okay.
Adding to Mithali Akka, not just preparing the class subjects, topics using accommodating various needs of the child, but also evaluating the learning in through different modes would also be effective. And I also like the statement Sonal Akka made. She said, don't make conclusions on a child, but just be aware of their difficulties, and not making conclusions and name calling the child would be a most effective way of helping a child.
I think you brought a very, very pertinent point, which is assessment, which I think we missed out in this. Differentiation also flows into assessment. As you prepare for your session, assessment also flows side by side, but we can take it at some other time. Yeah, others?
So for me, the adding to all what my colleagues have said, I think the envisioning the work, so what you're going to present and how it is going to be, helps you prepare to deal with the class. Your preparedness is more important before you enter the.
Okay.
So that is one thing which I.
Okay, that's great.
I feel it's important to understand each and every child's moods, for that matter. Like a child can carry anything, like what Sonal Akka said. like maybe that child would have had a bad day or something might have been going on in his mind, but it is very important not to judge them, and but to just sit with them and find out what is happening with the child, and try to bring out the child from whatever he or she is going through.
If not immediate, maybe later.
Yes.
If immediately you can't pause the lesson, later. If the child is not sharing with you, maybe a message, checking with the class teacher or with the principal or with Sonal Akka that is everything okay. I'll give you a little bit story here, which reminds me when I was teaching in middle school IB, our principal used to say, at least for middle school, I've taught from grades 5 to 12. So middle school, she used to say, needs only one value to be practiced, which goes for primary also, and that's empathy. Empathy to the kids. She used to just say that's the only value. We have to practice teachers to teachers, teachers to, let's say, the workers and kids. So many times we used to just get a private message in the morning. So-and-so kid, things are going on in the background, not okay. Watch out for that kid. And all of the child didn't know, we didn't know what's going on in the child's life. And the child never knew, but throughout the day we watched. And somebody or the other will send to the principal. Saw him at breakfast, he didn't eat it. Saw him at lunch, he ate it. Playing with his friends, sitting quietly. So it need not be that you need to sit with the kids. It could also, you can also get from the environment, the support that is needed to find out that, hey, this kid in my class hasn't spoken for 4 days. How is it going in your classes? Is that okay? So that also would be great.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Others?
My takeaway would be like a learning environment, setting up the learning environment for the pre-primary children, because that's more essential, because they actually learn only by seeing their surrounding. So like if suppose we are going to have a shop like team or something, they should really have the money and they have to buy something, only then they will know the value of things. And again, now we have the credit card system. So we should also have the different ways. We should also know and teach them and create the surrounding in such way will be much more helpful. So more focus should be given on that for my part.
Absolutely. Thank you. They absorb subconsciously a lot. Yeah. Yes, silent ones. Yes, Prerna.
The thing that I think I take back is the readiness to have my own sort of ideas and methods that are that I hold closely or that I think are valuable to a space, just dismantled every day by students and their sense of what's right for them, and to privilege that over what I think is right for the space, for the day.
Beautifully said. And I actually wasn't sure. One never knows in a session, like, being with teachers is just like being with kids. So I generally I differentiate my sessions. I go to as much depth as I feel. I'm so glad you said that, because you've touched with Sonal's help, the deepest point in a teacher-child relationship, which is where connect comes from. The more you dismantle your own views, the greater the connection is. The more it's like one of my managers in the previous company used to say, have opinions, but loosely held. Don't come into your meeting with so attached to your opinions, because we can't develop the product that way. And I used to think this guy really understands education, because the more you dismantle the walls, you'll see the connection comes, which means the more we work on ourselves to become less judgmental, the connect automatically flows through. The more we are vulnerable and we share our own limitations. Like a teacher once shared that she was very hassled, and the kids asked her, what's wrong with you? And she said, I have so much work on my plate and I just don't know what to do. And there was a pin drop silence in the class. And the kids said, 4 or 5 kids said, we're very good in planning. Let's help you. And they all actually sat down, they took her work and they organized a timeline for her. And that was the moment of connection. So the more we are vulnerable and less we are on a pedestal, the more we are unconditional with the kids. That connects is something which just flows. So thanks, Prerna, for this comment.
May I add?
Yeah.
So what I take back, or something that was like a revelation for me, was the fact that at the heart of any kind of differentiated teaching, learning, or whatever you call it, assessment, is I think the fact that the engagement has to be human, and the attempt of any individual should be to do that. I think once we are humanely in contact with anything we do, I think everything else will just fall
you
in
know
place.
what's humane maths. That's the,
Exactly. So from that
in
time, this has been running in my mind, and I've also been reading your blogs and watching your the videos that you put up. And this was something that has been brewing in my mind, and it resonates with what I also think for in this journey of mine as an educator with children.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's what I take back.
The whole objective of differentiation, or the whole objective of anything that we do in the classroom, is to come to a point where you're connecting human to human with the kids. So that is something never goes away, never goes back. I mean, they never forget, you never forget. And that is the overall objective. So the more we deconstruct ourselves, and my struggle at the present moment is to be like that with adults, and adults in corporate life, which are like so scary at times, because they know everything. They are so savvy, and here I am. And teachers, ex-teachers, we are never very sure because we deal with kids. No, we are always in that zone of maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. So, but with kids, it's so easy to come to the point where the connect is human, and then subject understanding, learning just flows. Like kids would say, I used to work in Bangalore in the Krishnamurti school, and there was a teacher called Mr. Gopalan, and the kids would say, I hate accounting, but I'll do it for Gopalan sir, Gopi sir, or Gopi uncle is how we used to call him. I'll do it for Gopi uncle. So that's the connection that flows. Then the subject understanding just flows. Okay, some of you haven't spoken at all. I think Shri Vidya, did you speak today? Okay, lots of times. Darshana?
I know I came and joined it late.
Shiva. Okay, no problem. Would you like to say something? Did you pick up anything today?
Let me rewatch the session again. I'm sorry for this.
Okay.
Let me rewatch the session again.
Sorry.
Let me rewatch the session again. I'm sorry for this. I didn't pick up any points.
Okay. Others?
May I, ma'am?
Yeah.
Actually, yesterday was my first day as a teacher, teacher as a career. Today, this workshop is a takeaway of how I should be carrying myself in the rest of the days coming in my school. And the thing is, I can't get a better experience of what I should be doing in the coming days. And what I learned is this how I should make the kids pull them to learn what they should be, what I can make them to pull them to learn, rather than putting things in their mind and compelling or making them it should be done this way or that way, or the way I can make I can learn from them in such a way it can be made interesting. That is what I learned from this session today.
That's great, and you have so many colleagues to help you in your next.
Yeah. It was pleasure. It's always pleasure being with them.
Okay, it's almost 1:10. So if others who were the silent ones today prefer to remain that, it's okay. We can wind up. Sonal, would you like to add something in the end?
Yeah, I think Vinod has
Yeah,
he has internet issues, so I have to keep the video off. But I think
no problem.
Present throughout.
Yeah.
Yes, Vinod.
What's my take for today is all about put your assumption outside of the class itself, like the interaction and the content what you make will let into a different perspective, because what this learning is all about, a student-led learning. What assumption we had towards like the class or the sessions, what we planned, it's going to be a simple scratch or a base. This is completely pushed forward by children's, because we are get to know their perspective as well. And also I would like to add upon like the pairing and the tic-tac-toe task which was presented in the video it's one fine idea, and I would definitely go to implement in following classes. So that's all about my take for today.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. And we have to thank Sonal for that, for keep the assumptions. I think Sonal, Monday, all my meetings also, I'm going to go like that. I think that should work great way with in the adult meetings also, that let me just keep my assumptions in my pocket before I enter the meeting. Anyone else, or shall we wind up then? Sonal, it's about one.
We can wind up. And Lakshmi would like to make the closing comments. Lakshmi, are you able to unmute yourself? I think there's some technical difficulty. Maybe Sharon can give the concluding remarks.
Thank you, Monica ma'am, for this very well described thing on differentiation. The thing is that we do a lot of these things in classroom, but when you explained it to us, we actually thought, okay, we are actually following these things in our classrooms already, but we didn't know about it as such. So thank you so much for enlightening us about all these things. And definitely it was a very thank you for all these things, and definitely we will be applying this in our classes and all that. And with all this yeah, sometimes we go into this teacher centric mode, but definitely student centric mode should be considered as one of the important things moving forward. And thank you so much, ma'am, for all for your time, and also for your detailed description of differentiated learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the number of times I've heard this from teachers, so we were already doing it. We didn't know what it was. It's so heartening to hear, because like the best thing I heard was when Carol says, so these are just commonsensical things teachers have been doing, and all good teachers differentiate their lessons. And probably what you have today is the vocabulary to talk about it. That I differentiated my content. Did I differentiate my content or process or product or learning environment? Okay, why am I differentiating my process all the time? Let me work a little bit on content. Let me work a little bit on product. How can I differentiate my, so it becomes a framework for teachers to reflect on their work on a, let's say, week by week basis. So which of the four, like I can differentiate process beautifully. Content for me is a bit hard. Product is okay. Learning environment again is fantastic. So let me keep working on myself to improve. So it's a great way to think about your work. Okay, thank you, and have a great rest of the weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. And Monica's expertise is in the field of mathematics. So some of these teachers, Lakshmi, Sharon, Kritika, we are going to be Mithali, we are going to be having probably more interactions with Monica over the year if her schedule permits.
Most welcome. I've given my email in the PDF, so please feel free to write if you need resources beyond what's on the PDF. But I've given you, I think, 1 year worth resources in the PDF. But if anything specific is needed, please feel free to write anytime.
Sorry for my net problem. I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you so much for the session. That was a wonderful PDF, and thank you for sharing all those strategies. Actually, knowingly or unknowingly, we have implemented most of it, and the terms alone they might have missed. Last year we had celebration of learning. Thanks to Sonal Akka, whatever they have learned during the online platform, actually children had get a chance to exhibit all their learnings to the parents and everyone. And during the process, we we have realized that actually they have taken a lot, even though it was online, they have taken a lot. And during the presentations, all these strategies were done, like we can use them for the assessments also, like sharing the strength and weakness. It is not only about something. After a unit, we use it to give them as a reflection sheet. What was the strength you realized during working out this topic or whatever it is? And then they will work out on their weakness later. It is not that it's ended at that point of time. So it is a continuous process, and Sonalaka always stresses on this, that judging the child is number one, first thing, and then always it should be an open-ended one, and there is no full stop to that topic or what. Once it is done, we close that. No, wherever we could connect it to it be any other subject also, we can connect it, and always they will have a reflection back, and they will keep exploring about it. The inquiry will be going on somewhere at some point of time. They'll reflect on that at a later time also. And journaling prompts also, like we have all these strategies are very good. Thank you so much for sharing them. We'll try to definitely make a note of it, and then we use it consciously during our assessments too. Thank you for the lovely session. Thank you for the time you have spent.
Thanks everyone. Bye. Have a good weekend.
If everybody has just a few seconds, I just want to say something on behalf of Monica ma'am, if I may. I was just going through a video of yours, and you say, what is the point if we are teaching something which is already so easily available on Google? Something that touched you. I thought it's so apt for all of us to think about that and probably progress into the rest of the weekend. What are we doing if we're just teaching something that's so freely available on Google? Maybe sometime.
Director Dr. Advani, Shalini Advani, she was director of IB Pathways Noida. She had asked this in a staff meeting from us. She told us in a meeting, if it's on Google, and her oratory skills are so great that she says it just sinks into your mind. And she said, if it's on Google and you're teaching the kids, you're wasting their time. That was a school with huge amount of resources, with laptops and Wi-Fi with each child. So then that's what triggered me into thinking, how can I use what's on Google? And it led to flipping the class. And I think by the end of it, I wasn't teaching at all. The kids were learning themselves. I only had a set of instructions. But of course, that's middle and high school. But it's beautiful that you brought this, that how can we trigger them? How can we trigger ourselves to go beyond what already exists?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.